You guys, I think we should start.
Yeah, we should start otherwise.
I mean, what do y'all think?
Okay, yeah.
Guys, we're good to go.
Okay.
Good to go? All right.
So we're recording?
We are recording.
All right.
So I should start all over again. All right, I call this meeting to order. Okay, the first thing on this agenda is, thank you, Tony, for making this agenda. It's pretty short and sweet. And we'll discuss things. First of all, I think we should go ahead and who is present and who is not present. Elaine Richardson, she has an excused absence, so she's not here. And then we are still, Mary Hendricks is not here, as we have, in the last several meetings. So we are going to talk about it, what we are going to do. Till then, Nancy is taking care of the minutes. Thank you, Nancy. We are going to go and approve our minutes from December 11th meeting. There are a couple of changes people have suggested. Thank you for going through this thing and brainstorming and adding and subtracting whatever you wanted to understand this minutes. So do we approve now?
I move that we approve the minutes as written.
I second that.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Yeah.
The ayes have it.
Thank you.
I also move to accept Mary's resignation. I don't know if that's but-
Sure, second.
All in favor?
So the discussion would be she sent an email saying she's sorry she couldn't be on the committee, and we thank her for her service, and sure, obviously, we don't force people to be here.
Public comments?
Do you have any comments, public?
Public representing.
Cool, that's all I have.
That's an excellent comment.
Excellent comment, yes. That kind of public we want.
That's right.
All right.
Guys, if you wanted to, you could wait until we have a full committee to vote on nominate and vote on another secretary. I know, Nancy, you're covering in the meantime, but I don't know if you want to wait to do that, or if you want to go ahead and vote or nominate.
Shall we ask Nancy if she wants to be the secretary?
That would be polite.
I'm willing to be it,
Right. I don't see any reason to wait then.
That's right, she has been doing the job.
Are there advantages to waiting?
Well, it would just give others opportunity, but you're filling this in. We don't know when there will be
Depending on how
another.
so we can.
So we would need a nomination or a motion and a second and a vote for Nancy.
So Elaine, I nominate Nancy to be our secretary.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Nancy, are you in favor?
Somebody needs to do the job.
I'm kidding.
I certainly need to. Now, the discussion items are subcommittee reports and discussion. So this is our first meeting after we have our subcommittee was appointed, and we discussed in last meeting. And I'm eagerly waiting to hear from all the committees. The first one is subcommittee report, wildlife certification,
Yeah.
energy efficiency, tree preservation.
We had a Zoom meeting on the 18th, and we talked about, we basically had a giant brainstorming session about different ways that we could engage Clemson homeowners in being interested in certifying their yards as wildlife habitat. We talked about clubs, Sierra, Rotary Club, Sertoma, and I'm a master naturalist. We talked about posting on social media. Chris is our contact with the Clemson Downs, and he's also working on setting up a Facebook page. We're also going to liaise with Greer, who apparently is already certified, to see if they can give us any pointers. we talked about maybe doing a wildlife photo competition or a raffle, maybe doing an education event in the spring, having a booth at the farmer's market in the spring. And then I made a list of the HOAs and churches, because we can contact them, and clubs. So I just wanted to ask if anybody is in a homeowners association already that they could speak, or if they've already done it to their homeowners association, or if you know anybody who lives in any of the homeowners associations in Clemson that we could contact about going to the meetings.
Do you want to just pass the list around and we'll write it down? I'm in a bunch of
Sure,
those
yeah, I
things.
can do that. It's just in my little book. And if there is, I think, a back page. Yeah, there's one on the back page. And if there's any that I missed, because I tried to do it by the map, by going and zooming in on maps, but it was just, it was crazy. So I just went online and found as many as I could and wrote them down. So if there's any I missed, please add them to the list. And if you know any contacts, just put them on there. How's that? We'll start it down there. Is there anybody who's in any local organizations?
I'm chair of the Sierra Club. So.
Okay, so will you talk to the Sierra Club and tell them all about Chris's project?
Yeah, can I get some more of the flyers?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I can email you them, or then, like I said, I always have hard copies at the Nettles office.
I've got
But I can
4
bring some.
in my car.
There's actually, I think there's even some here, so I can probably get you like 20 tonight.
Oh, well, 5 or 6 is good.
5 is good, okay.
Yeah.
I can easily get that.
Good. Sure, I'll be happy to do that February 1st at our next meeting.
Is anybody in any of the Rotary or Sertoma clubs or anything else? Okay.
I know some names. I can write those down for you.
Okay, yeah, just write them in my little book.
And I know some church people names too.
Great, yeah.
The other thing is, Rotary and Sertoma are generally desperately looking for speakers,
Yeah.
so.
Who is? Oh, it's a Rotary.
Rotary and Sertoma. Absolutely. So,
Okay.
Chris, when I talked to you last time, you were saying that, probably going in some of the neighborhoods. I think, Elaine, you offered that in my neighborhood.
I'm happy to come to your neighborhood association and speak, and I'm sure Chris is too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the thing is that they don't meet, we meet once a year.
Yeah, we do too.
Yeah, so once a year, that would be in May, so.
We meet in April.
Exactly,
or
so,
May.
but what I wanted, that if somebody could, the idea was that maybe we can put the flyers in the mailboxes. Is it possible?
So officially, you cannot
Yeah, I
put
was gonna
anything
say.
in a mailbox.
I
It's the
know.
property of
Of the yeah.
So what you can do is you
There's-
can put it with a rubber band or a string, hang it on
Yeah.
the flag, but you can't put it in the mailbox.
No, but what about in our neighborhood, we have a box underneath our mailbox.
That you can do.
That's right.
But
So-
one has to ask if that would be useful. What I've tried to do in my neighborhood is just go around and look at who likes gardening and has, right? Because the majority, I don't know about your neighborhood, but there's a lot of weeds in most neighborhoods and people don't really even mow they mow their lawn, but not much more. So I think most people wouldn't be up for this. So personal targeting is good.
There is nothing to say you have to have a beautiful garden in order for it to be wildlife habitat.
Yeah, no, I don't
So,
mean that.
yeah.
My experience with most residents in my neighborhood and other neighborhoods is they barely have time to mow the lawn, much less figure out, do I have native plants
They're
or
not
not?
motivated.
Like
Yeah.
they're doing babysitting, grocery shopping,
Gotcha.
and,
Yeah,
you
that
know,
makes
so I just wonder if printing off a lot of flyers and putting them in mailboxes of people who aren't interested is sustainable. That's my question.
Yeah, yeah, sorry, yeah.
I'm not opposed to it, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, no, but the thing is that what I'm saying, not the front yard. I know in my neighborhood, you just cannot do anything in my front yard. It has to be, maintained. But everybody has a huge backyard. Everybody has a huge backyard in that neighborhood, and they can definitely do something in the back of their neighborhood, the house. So,
Yeah, I'd be willing to canvass around my apartment complex. There's a couple of people who I've already spoken to who are
yeah.
have gardens and whatnot. So I'm sure they would love to do that. So
Yeah.
I'll get some flyers on that as well.
Yeah, for sure.
And it is wildlife. You do get owls, you get all different sorts of birds and
Everybody
everything.
gets birds and
Yeah, the
butterflies,
Butterfly,
insects.
birds, insects, and all this. Everybody's
all
backyard
wildlife.
can, yeah, we can definitely.
all counts.
It can be, they all count, so. It's
And
just
I-
the
and I do-
matter of.
Just real quick, I do have a couple emails out, I haven't got responses yet, I think it's just late because the holidays. But some of the, I came up with some other ideas, so I reached out to the Clemson Botanical Garden, their duck pond is officially a wildlife garden. So that, I think that would be a good, so I have an email out to them, and then this was recommended today, so South Carolina DNR has a wildlife management, so I'm gonna reach out to them. And then the Clemson Extension, it's, the acronym is WEEP, it's Clemson Co-Extension 4-H Youth Leadership, but it's a wildlife education program, and it's run by this Mallory right here in Walhalla, so I sent her an email as well, so hopefully in the next week I'll get some.
Yeah, the
Okay.
DNR office has a little prairie in front of it and everything, so they would be a
That
no-brainer.
would be right next to the composting operation and the chicken farm. Yeah, that'd be good. Do we have a plan on what parks we're gonna certify for that?
So what we had is we were gonna do about like 4, I don't wanna certify all of them, so Cindy went out and saw which ones like qualify. So I would say probably within the next like week or so, we'll have 4 more parks certified.
Okay.
And then we'd still have about 4 or 5 in our back pocket. If it gets closer to Earth Day and we're still down a lot of points,
We can do that.
we can use that.
If we want to schedule a community walk and invite the public for a walk maybe on the Green Crescent Trail and do a certification at the same time, I think that would be great public outreach.
That's a good idea. You know, when we do these kind of events, what happens, people feel involved in it, and when you see something visually, it has a greater impact than just sending information, emailing, and it really doesn't, I mean, in my opinion personally, it just kind of, another email, another flyer. But if we involve, if we make it an event, that, okay, Sustainability Committee is having an event
And-
where we are going to.
What's more, the Green Crescent Trail is already doing walks and bike rides, so we would just find out when their next one is. We have a contact, Chad was just here, and ask him when their next one is and how we can help with that, and we'd like to additionally, I'm imagining they'll do one in the spring. They do both work days, walks, and bike rides, like in last spring, they biked down to get ice cream. on
And
the
I'd be
Green Crescent.
happy to go and help say, oh, look, there's a cedar tree, it produces berries, which supports wildlife. Oh, look, there's an oak tree, it has
Yes.
acorns, so it supports wildlife.
Wonderful.
Versus, your Bradford pear, which is not going to have anything.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Do we have a email for Mr. Chad Carson that I could write down?
I've got it, I can get it for you.
Okay.
He's at the university, isn't he?
Along that Green Crescent Trail, Kathy Robeson, who's one of our community gardeners,
Yeah, I know her.
she did a grant through the South Carolina Native Plant Society, and she got $1,000, and she did a native planting around one of the benches below the garden there. And it kind of adds to the butterfly monarch thing that we're doing, but that is a great little spot to point out native plants in a specific place.
And that's you said below the community garden? Is that next to that retention pond
It's
that we saw?
right before you get to the retention pond there, we walked by.
Putting milkweed there would be a great opportunity.
I think she did. She put quite a few plants in there.
Oh, that's awesome.
And she has them all identified, but that would be a great little stop along the walk
Yeah.
as an example of what you could do.
So should we decide a date sometime in the spring at an event? Let's
I think we need to reach out to
Yeah.
Chad Carson.
Chad Carson, and then we should plan for something like that and make it a
Sounds good. I'll try and get a
public event.
club
And I
presence
would
at the
love to go.
university.
Also, whether it's warm, I love to go to these places and explore, which I have not done for a while, but I should do that.
Like in
And
the spring when things start to,
yeah, start to bloom and sprout. We should definitely like Botanical Garden. They used to have. I have attended a couple of their garden walk, and they used to do this beautiful thing at night, which I have attended. and school kids were invited, where you go at night and an expert, one of them, teacher would be with them to show all the different critters at night. And that was a very cool event.
It is very cool to do something like
It's really
that.
cool event to see that how important those things are. Look,
It's
which-
just chadcarson@gmail.com.
yeah.
Perfect, thank you.
So we can definitely do that kind of event for our committee. Not
The other thing is, the city now has a public information officer. We talked with her today in our team meeting,
Oh.
and so she could be a very, very useful resource for getting things.
Well, I'll be calling her.
What's her name?
Her name is Bree, and I can send you be a liaison. Bree Sanders is her name. She comes from WSBA TV News. So she's gonna be
Public Information Officer. Bree.
Bree Sanders.
So,
Does she have a phone number?
so that subcommittee is doing really well.
Yeah, one meeting.
That's really good, yeah.
And then just real quick, the administrative points, our goal was to have those done, by the first of this year, so I have them all submitted, all but 40 points. So 20 points are still pending, and then 20 points, I have to make slight little corrections. It's just moving their logo around, it's nothing serious. So I would say that everything's submitted, and I would say within the next week,
Sweet.
everything should be certified. So the administrative aspect is done, and then the actual resident signing up is still at that 65, so we still need about 100.
Perfect.
All right. Let's move on to our wildlife certification. After that is energy efficiency.
So I did not have a meeting. Cindy, you showed
We
me.
forgive you.
But the committee is Cindy, Bob, Rita's on every committee, and me, and I'm the chair. I did do quite a bit of emails back and forth with Tony, just to understand how we might be able to get some funding for the 2 solar things that need repair. And have you gotten the report back from the?
I have not heard back from them yet, but I expect to.
So there was a review of city buildings for energy efficiency, and that strikes me as the starting point, right? So once we have that, then the subcommittee could sort of say, these are the priorities, and look for funding and consider bringing something to the city. But to start before that didn't make sense. Obviously, there's more to energy efficiency than the energy efficiency of the city buildings. I understand that. But I was kind of waiting on that to start a meeting. Is everybody okay with that, or?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Just in terms of, I was under the understanding that as a committee, we were not supposed to go out and apply for grants. But
Yeah.
that we could suggest that to
Yeah.
somebody in the city. Okay.
But we should prospect, we should identify the grants.
Identify the grants, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm part of the reason I volunteered is there were so many grants that we just missed by starting too late, and they've all
saw that.
expired, and that makes me very sad. But that's because we're in South Carolina. But there are still some. I did reach out to the Upstate Forever has a solar guy, and I reached out to him to see if he had some information on how we could get some funding. And one of the recommendations he made, and Bob and I have already joined, if you don't know this, South Carolina has an Office of Resiliency. SOR is the name. And the Office of Resiliency has money, first of all. And secondly, they have a newsletter type thing. And so I signed up for the newsletter, and at the end it asks, and what do you need, right? And so I put in, well, we have a couple solar things in Clemson that we need to repair and are looking for funding. So if several of you did that, then they might think, wow, the people in Clemson are doing stuff if all of you filled that out. So if you feel like going to SOR and just signing up for their announcements, because they're gonna, so one of the things they do is they help people move away from flood zones to more appropriate places, right? That's a lot of coastal work, but they could help us too, potentially. So I reached out to them. So that's kind of the work I've done so far, and I'm kind of waiting on this report. But I will try to get a meeting together before our next meeting. If this, you think we'll have this soon?
I think so.
Yeah, so he's gonna let me know, and then I'll mail it to you too.
And the contractors are looking at all city
They
facilities.
didn't look at every building. They looked at 4 or 5 buildings.
That's great.
One of them was this building. This is a huge energy suck.
Yeah.
This one, utilities, the sewer plant, just the big ones. And then they also looked at the solar at CAT and at the rec center. Both which systems are down. So presenting how to repair those. But I had asked them, once they get their report prepared, if they would come present it to the committee. And that way, we can all hear it.
Do you have any idea who are the people who would repair these panels?
Well, so we need to, the reason I want to wait for this is we need some advice. Is it worth repairing? You probably are aware there's phase, you know better than most people. There's old solar and there's new solar and there's useful, and would the expense be worth the cost and what would it save us? And then we have to have a way to sell that to the city because it's going to cost some money.
Yeah.
And so I'm really impressed that the city has already ordered a review of that, and I think that's the point. How can we spend money and then save money? And I want those numbers first before we just go out and say,
And in their report, they were gonna have 3-year models,
Yeah.
And then return on investment.
Yeah.
So
That's right. Yeah, so that's the whole thing. I had talked about it before, that we need to know about those things, the cost and the cost effectiveness, and how it's going to save us money, and all those long-term benefits, long-term goals will come with that.
and as is the case in every city, undoubtedly it will cost more money than the city has. So we will be the ones who will say, this is a priority and this isn't.
So you were saying this building was
Reviewed.
reviewed
And has a bunch of problems. You mentioned a few of them already, right? Like drafts, air.
yeah, so there's a leak. There's leaking in the air ducts.
Yeah.
This building has some serious AC problems, but the LED, retrofitting the LED of this building would be a huge saving. The building superintendent at Public Works, he had come up with a estimate a couple of years ago, and it was $30,000 for fixtures and everything of this building, but there would have been a return on investment in a couple of years. It just seems like a chunk of money,
at
all
that
at
time.
once.
With any project like that, with any, whether it's a tree project, whether it's an energy saving project, initially you have to spend money, but when you have to, that's what we are looking for, long-term goals and long-term benefits.
I would like to bring some newer information to you guys' attention with LEDs. There is new metabolic research coming out about how incandescent lights are actually better just for humans' health. It has a lot to do with like mitochondrial function, and LEDs there's more and more research coming out saying that actually have a negative impact, not just on our eyes,
Yeah.
which they do, but also our health.
Yeah.
So if we're going to make decisions and recommendations, let's take that into account. And I'll try and find some research on it.
Yeah, where did you read that about LED?
That's pretty generally known in the healthcare field. I'm
Yeah.
aware of
Yes.
that too. I talk to patients about that.
About LED.
And just in general, we missed a window where we could have gotten $1 million from the federal government to do some of this stuff, right? Maybe not $1 million, but we just weren't on it and we didn't get it, right? So that's another thing. Although we're not the grant people, we got to keep our eyes open. I'm afraid that the federal government might not be so generous on sustainability in the future. That's my guess, but we can pay attention. Office of Resiliency, I think, is a place we could maybe get some help.
And another thing I was thinking about whenever we were talking about retrofitting things, as far as low costs, I don't know how much water is for the city, but if we did rainwater collection where we could on public buildings, I think that would lower our cost to maintain our gardens, which we've got some really nice gardens around here. So just an idea for energy efficiency. If
But
that,
you want to be on the committee?
no.
You can't have more than 4 anyway, so
Okay.
it's probably just.
I might pop in every now and again.
Good. You got some
Special
great
guest.
ideas, good job.
Yes. Any other ideas, any other suggestions? Well, thank you, the Wildlife Certification and the Energy Efficiency Committee. Good report, we are moving. I know you were saying we are slow, that's why we lost money, but
We are now moving,
we are moving, and there will be more, something else will come up, some other opportunity, so we have to just keep our eyes open. And we'll do whatever we have right now, we'll work on it. All right, tree preservation.
So in Elaine's absence, I'll talk on that because I'm on there. Thank you guys for nominating me when I wasn't here. I'm glad you know I'm a tree hugger. So I've been speaking to a couple of developers and friends who just work in surveying and forestry, and what I'm hearing from them is we need to revise our ordinance very badly.
revise
Our tree ordinance. And they would like to see us move to something a lot similar to Charleston. If we wanted to see what a very extreme route of tree preservation looked like, especially for critical areas, we could move to a more Port Royal style ordinance where the fines are much heavier, but Charleston is a really nice balance on the development and allowing people to develop land in a good way, and encouraging that, but also still having to pay your dues whenever you cut down the right trees. So there are different programs I know of specifically where they will count trees saved as far as their inches go to offset, especially when projects reach over $1 million that you have to pay for tree offsets. So implementing smart development ideals into those ordinances is something that we're going to try and focus on. I was talking to Barrier Island Engineering. They are a firm mostly based out of Charleston, but they just moved up here, and they are eager to work with the city of Clemson. They've just not had much luck. I think he told me that Clemson actually has an in-house engineer. Is that the case? Okay. Who doesn't like permeable pavers, I've heard. So I'm a big fan of permeable pavers, but having the Clemson city engineer come and talk to us about why he might not like that would be really interesting. And I am going to, if we can pick a meeting to talk about, to talk about the tree ordinance and propose it, either February, probably the next month, probably March. I can invite a couple of those developers and we can have the city engineer talk about everything.
Yeah, and I would say that's probably not completely true.
Okay.
Sat in a lot of meetings with the engineer Nathan Hinkle,
Okay.
and he has suggested the use of a bunch of different things.
Nice.
It always depends on the situation.
Mm-hmm.
If you're wanting to use permeable pavers in a floodplain, it's not a great idea. We had talked about it with the development of the Berkeley Orchard, which is going to be the sustainable habitat forage area. It's not a good idea there because of the sediment from the flooding, which will clog all of that porous, and it won't be functional. You have to vacuum it out, so it wouldn't be a good situation. So I wouldn't make a blanket statement like he's against the permeable pavers, because I have heard him suggest it in different situations.
Yeah, sorry, I was just trying to bring up things like permeable pavers, other sustainable design.
He would be glad to come speak with us, though.
Awesome.
Thank you, that's awesome. I'm just wondering, so you're saying March, so I agree we need a new ordinance. I'm thinking a draft at some point, and I'm just wondering about ordering. So unfortunately, we have so many tasks we need to get to. So what would be the first thing? Probably we're not ready to do a draft, but is the first thing to hear from somebody that wants our money, like a developer? Do you see what I'm saying? because we don't have money. Or is the first thing for the subcommittee to get together and review the Charleston one and give us 6 points that you think our ordinance should include? So again, just speaking from previous experience of being on committees, a subcommittee would kind of get together a draft or an outline of an ordinance and say, let's go this way, or let's prioritize these 3 things and let's have these 10 things. Because we can't do ordinances either. We're taking them to the city council.
Yeah, so I was thinking by March, we would be able to have a draft that the subcommittee could present to this committee as well as the public.
Would it be helpful to redline the existing ordinance
What is that?
instead of completely drafting, looking at what's already there and redlining the things that you would like to change?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That would be a good way to start, that what they have, and then we can, then
It's
we
going to
can.
be a tough sell to completely start over, because there's been some pretty positive changes over the past 5 years with the land regulations, and some of these are going to be land regulation changes as well.
Okay.
So I'm thinking subcommittee meets and does some of that pre-work before we, just my opinion, before we invite guests, either the engineer or the folks. I do want to hear from them, don't misunderstand me, but I also want to get things out of this committee and achieve things, right? I don't want to just sit here and learn. I want to get things
Yes.
out of the committee.
What's an ordinance?
An ordinance is a law that the city or the state or the federal government has that specify, for example, if you take out your tree, you're going to pay this fine, which,
Which is what we have, yeah.
yeah. And so there are some ordinances that have improved over the years. So the first step, it makes sense for we need a copy of the current one with the notes from the subcommittee on what you want to change and a few suggestions and maybe some priorities. Why don't we do that in March, just talk among ourselves? And then another meeting, we could have your guests in if we have, does that make sense, or what do y'all think?
The way it started, if we remember the beginning of September, we started our meeting, and I said that I came on this committee because I really did not like the way developers are cutting down all the trees and destroying people's backyard. And that was one example from my house. They cut it down. Actually, my house is kind of safe, but other houses, they just completely cut down the whole all the wooded areas, and it's so badly exposed to someone else's house, which was not for 20, 25 years, 26 years. And suddenly it's like a different kind of neighborhood, and I feel so bad for those people who are completely exposed. Probably next year, my backyard, I can see some houses too from which I didn't see before. So if they leave that's how it started, that if they leave those trees, which are really creating a kind of barrier between two houses, and leave their privacy and the beauty of the backyard, okay, that's how I think.
You're talking about buffers.
Yeah, buffers, and that's how the person came and talked about it. So that's how this whole idea came up. And if you can keep that goal in our mind, that there should be a buffer, there should be maintaining the beauty, as we talked about that. Trees and how to preserve them, that's part of it. And also, it's a part of our wildlife certification, which we are talking about it. I mean, when I think about it, if your backyard is just completely naked, and of course we can still do that, but that's part of it, to keep that beauty and keep that wildlife and keep that wooded area as serene as it was.
Mm-hmm.
So So that's what goals should be, and based on that, let's look at what city has what kind of ordinance they have, and we can look into that and make our recommendation, make our suggestions on what we are planning to do, what are our goals.
So with the March date, I was thinking that was kind of a goal to have the subcommittee bring something before everybody. If we want to push it back even further, that's okay, but is anyone else on the subcommittee besides me and Elaine?
I think that's it.
Would anyone else like to be on the subcommittee?
Rita is sort of de facto on all the subcommittees, so.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm always
This
thinking,
guy, I
like,
think, is your guy.
Chris, yeah.
Oh, me?
Yeah. I'll rope you into our email threads then.
Yeah, no, I can, yeah, no, you can rope me into that.
Perfect.
Yeah, no, I'll help any way I can with that.
I would make a suggestion. When you make a case about changing an ordinance, you want to have you want to make a solid case. So just saying that you talk to a developer and they think that our ordinance stinks isn't necessarily going to be making a case for changing that ordinance. So if we can come up with some research, facts, those types of things that would show the benefit of changing that ordinance, I think that will go a long way.
Like the heat map that you shared with us.
The heat map,
Yeah,
the
so-
canopy stuff, just
Canopy,
any of
yeah,
those
okay.
things that we already have that can bolster that argument.
Cities are very resistant to change.
Yes. and
Governments. yeah.
Changes to public
Yeah.
property and regulating things on public property is a tough sell.
And private property
And
is
private
even
property.
harder.
I
Even
think,
harder,
yes.
absolutely.
Can we suggest to make a change to commercial private property that doesn't affect residents? Or in a separate change for the residents possibly?
There is a commercial tree ordinance,
Okay,
and there is no private tree ordinance.
okay. Which I think is probably the way it should be.
Well, 80% of our tree canopy is on private property.
Oh, no!
Yes.
That's terrible.
Very little of it is on commercial property.
So maybe we should
Very
push-
little of it is on public property.
Did you say there's a way to protect trees in perpetuity?
That's voluntary. That was the plan that was the change that the planning guys talked about when they came, Nathan Woods and Jacob. You can, at your home, preserve your trees in perpetuity. You can put them in a trust
Until you sell it or in perpetuity?
in perpetuity,
Even if you sell it?
even if you sell it.
Are there pamphlets for that? Because I would also totally be willing
That
to
is another
canvass.
thing that would be a good idea for us to publicize.
Yeah.
'Cause
Yeah, so when you sell
Nobody
your
knows
house, you
about
know,
that
you,
one.
yeah.
What is it called?
I don't know.
It's some kind of deed restriction.
Yeah.
But, I mean, when I asked about it earlier, there's nothing out there, you know, there's no, this is how you do this, kind of. It's just like, well, you know,
The directions.
yeah.
Yeah.
Who was the
That
fellow
would be a
that
really
talked
good
about
thing
it?
for
What
the
did he say?
subcommittee.
Nathan Woods.
Do you think Nathan Woods
That's
would be
where you can
willing to
make some
put
real
something
impact.
together for us?
Absolutely.
If we asked him?
Yes,
It'd
I
take
can do
the city
that.
council
You
years
do
of
that.
debating it back and
And,
forth.
and I mean brief, not a
Yes,
trifle.
no, yeah.
Real brief.
Tony, is that, if someone were to do that to their trees and they had an arborist come out and do the 3D scan and they ruled that the tree was unhealthy or dying, does that prevent a homeowner from being able to take action?
That is a good question. I don't think so, but it may require a permit
Okay.
at that point. That's usually the way private tree ordinances work.
And then would the burden of hiring the arborist to get the information fall on the homeowner? Okay,
It would.
that's gonna be a hard sell, but we can hammer out those details.
I can tell you, Andrew, a way to sell tree ordinances to private property owners is that some of our residents in Clemson are irritated that there is no state ordinance that so let's say Bob and I live next to each other, and I have a branch that does this, and he wants to cut it down. He's not allowed to do that.
Oh, man.
And there are places, states that have such an ordinance. I don't know if cities can, but that would help sell, you know, so that's a pain, right? That I have this branch over my yard that I keep running into when I mow my lawn, right? So that would be a way. So maybe what Tony was saying about selling this is to put a few things in that are carrots, right? We're gonna say, don't cut down all your trees, or don't cut down trees bigger than this centimeter diameter or whatever. But we're also gonna say, if your neighbor has a branch that's in your yard, you can cut that down, right? So I'm not saying that in particular, but carrot and stick.
I see what you're saying.
To piggyback on that, when we do have development next to private property, that development can go right up to the property line. Well, if you have a 80-year-old oak sitting near that property line, that grading is gonna go into that root system,
roots, for sure.
into the critical zone, and there's nothing to protect it, and I see that happening over and over and over again.
That's what was my concern, that's what I'm concerned about, that with the property line, and then right near that, they're just cutting down the things and they're destroying the trees.
So that's carrot and stick again. So we're giving homeowners if you've got a developer coming and it's in your root area. I mean, this is a lot of thinking, holy cow.
Yeah, this is good. So you're saying if someone were to put their tree into a trust, they would have root zone protection.
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
No.
They should.
They should have
They
root zone
should have
protection.
root zone protection, because that's a third of the tree.
Well, maybe
Oh,
that
yeah.
would be an
And it's the most
incentive
important
to
thing.
then certify your tree, because then if your
You
roots.
can take the case.
Yeah, if you write that in there, then if the root zone extends beyond your property, that it's protected.
I'm gonna draw a little carrot.
I mean, wouldn't that have to come as well in some of the commercial requirements from the city? If a tree is over this, 18 inches or whatever it is, that you have to allow for that.
But is there any regulation, Tony, tell me, that somebody's house and that tree is healthy and everything, but if it's going to fall in, bad weather, it's going to, fall on their house? So that's another safety thing. I don't know about it, how to.
There's
get it
a
impacted.
state law about dead trees, and insurance will look at dead trees. If it's a living tree,
Yeah, I know.
it's
not.
considered an act of God if it falls. Now, if you can make a case that tree was leaning, and you have an arborist come and look at that tree, and they do a risk assessment, and they say, this is prone to imminent failure, then you can make a case prior to failure. But if it's a living tree, it's generally
Insurance company, you
considered,
mean?
yeah. If it's a living tree, it's generally considered an act of God.
Although for our ordinance ideas, we probably want to have a number of centimeters from a house. So we might want to, so when I moved into my house, there were 4 trees this big and round, exactly next to my house, right? And we took those out because of the storm damage. So if we're going to make ordinances about private property, I mean, I basically live in a forest and a house is in the middle of it, right? And there's quite a lot of those in Clemson, right?
There are.
So if you make an ordinance, you might want to consider a number of centimeters, inches, kilometers from the house, right?
Yeah.
I'd be glad to work. No offense to Chris, but I'd love to work on this with you.
Although we can't have more than 4 people, is that what you said?
Well, but,
Special guest.
But they're not official
yeah,
committee.
you're not,
Yeah,
you're
committee.
officially a city
They're
liaison.
invited.
Oh, they're
So is
not,
Chris.
right. So
We
y'all
can't
don't
be on,
count in
but
the
I-
full.
Gotcha.
I'd love to
Well,
assist
that's
you.
wonderful
No,
that he
you just
wants.
can't be, they can't be official.
The other thing, something you were just saying about the distance. So usually how these public tree ordinances work, and I'm talking about this Johns Island, which is close to the Charleston, and they borrowed the Charleston model. So if you cut down a tree, say 36 inches in diameter, that would be anything above that would be, you have to come and get a permit. That's the way it works. They're not saying you cannot cut this tree down. You have to come and get a permit. So that would be a judgment call. I would have to go out and inspect that tree and measure it, make sure it's that diameter, and make a judgment call. Oh, okay, this is close to the house. Or if you want to build something, there has to be a case for cutting that
Or
tree
where the
down.
roots are based on the tree.
Yep.
Could you please do it in the metric system and not inches, please?
I'm a big fan of the imperial system. Triangles, it's good for woodworking.
Let's
I like carpentry.
think about the future, folks. The United States will not be able to stay in the imperial system.
Oh,
If,
They've been saying that for 50 years.
Yes.
yeah.
that's a minor point, but boy, oh boy. Let's think
We
about the
can do
future.
both. I have to convert
Yeah,
units
it
a lot
needs- it
anyway. So in Johns Island, do they also have the fine per inch?
What they do is they require you to replace that caliper tree with 3 other trees.
Oh, wow.
So it's a replacement.
So it's a fine or replacement, or?
It's a replacement.
Okay.
If you cut the tree down without a permit, that's a fine.
I see.
And then they make you plant the trees.
Mm.
But if you get the permit to remove, you also have to replace that
It's
canopy.
excellent, love it.
So the only problem with that is sometimes that goes unregulated and the trees get planted too close. This happened to my sister-in-law, and the trees get planted too close, and then they eventually have to be removed anyway because they're live oaks. So there needs to be some sort of, somebody looking and making those recommendations so that we're not planting.
Complex.
Yeah, it's very complex. That's why it's tough
Yeah,
it's tough to pass. But the other thing, like you were talking about, to sell this, if you want to say sell it, is can you think of another ordinance that would benefit your neighbor or your neighbor's neighbor as much as a tree ordinance? Because those benefits are going all across this community. You have to get a permit to pour a driveway. You have to get a permit to do electrical in your house. You have to get a permit to do structural. That's great for you, and that protects you, and it makes sure that you get the right contractor. But how is that benefiting your neighbor? So to me, that is a tremendous selling point.
Well, big trees in a neighborhood benefit financially the whole neighborhood, because your property values go up if you have big trees.
Absolutely.
Well, and your neighbor in the future, right? In 12 generations ahead, when they're using the metric system.
Now, a lot of this importance falls on different neighborhoods. Some neighborhoods view trees as a risk.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's our place to go preach to them that they need to look at the benefits only. There are a lot of folks who cannot afford tree care. So, those things need to be looked at as well.
And Will, with some of the stuff we're trying to develop with biofertilization recommendations, I think having a public asset or a public ability to help these landmark trees, like you've got this great tree in your yard and you don't want it to die, but you see this fungus. Well, if you make it a landmark tree, we'll come out and give it this treatment where, we inject the stuff into the root zone and help it. I think that could be another incentive.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Excellent.
I would like to get that come up at my house. That's a good one, yes.
The
I would like
city
someone
couldn't
to-
provide that. I don't know if that could be funded by the city through a tree fund that developers pay into.
I would
when
love
they-
it. That's great. Is this theoretical or does this exist?
Well, there already is a fund. We have a pretty
There you go.
massive tree fund where developers have not been able to plant according to the canopy requirement. We had a couple of instances. The Bixby couldn't plant 2 trees, and they paid $30,000.
How much money do we have?
It's a good bit in there. I'll have to check. I can get you
There you go.
an exact
There you
amount.
go, yeah.
But that
Yeah.
money is for us to plant trees and do tree care
Tree care.
on public property around town. So those trees weren't planted here, but we're going to plant them somewhere else. So we use that money to assist our budget for planting trees.
That's good.
So that does exist, but I'd like for the fines to be higher.
Yeah. Yeah, so would I. How would, when it comes to the rules that were put in place, because we do have a landmark tree thing that we like, if my neighbor wanted to do it right now, could they protect their tree? Okay. How do I find the city documents, and I don't know if it's an ordinance?
We're asking Nathan Woods, who presented that here, to make us a little small flyer to
He
bring
came in the
to a
beginning
future
of the
meeting of how to.
First session or second session, he came.
Nathan Woods works for the city.
Gotcha.
Can ask him.
And Tony's gonna ask him.
We could work with him to
We
make
can
a
ask him
flyer.
to come and explain all this, because it's.
Well, he did explain it
I remember that the
already.
first one, yeah,
But we're gonna get him to make a flyer and we'll all have it.
and we all need to have that
Maybe
in
the
writing.
sections of the code
So you
where
can
it's
work
at.
on this committee.
And then we can take it with us when we're doing Cindy's doing the neighborhood.
Neighborhood, yeah, the neighborhood.
That can go, that can be
Exactly.
another flyer.
That goes
that we
hand in
take
hand.
home.
Yeah, another thing I would suggest that if I can get email all this information about certification, draft, an email draft where we are asking people from this committee, and then I can send it to, like, we have a Calhoun Forest mailing list.
That's a
which
good
is
idea. I like
private.
that too,
Which is
actually.
private,
So-
and I can put that mailing list, as I said, is private, so I cannot give it to anybody, but I can post it.
And I can too, to several groups I'm in. So
Yeah,
can you
there's
make
several groups,
something
exactly.
like
So
that?
we have the mailing list, and this will be one of the things we can ask them to do. And I know in my neighborhood, many people would like to do that. So if you can draft an email requesting people what it is, Chris can.
No, I think that you're talking about Cindy for the national, for the wild.
For either
I
one,
thought you were
yeah.
talking about the landmark tree thing. Okay.
Landmark tree thing, or even for the certification also.
For the wildlife certification, could
Wildlife
you
certification.
email all of us a blank, dear blank, and then I'll email that to a couple people I know and my neighborhood,
That's a great way to spread the news.
which will get more people than the neighborhood association meeting.
Yeah.
I like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So let's come up with a generic email.
Generic email
to
from
send
the
for
city.
wildlife thing and
Yeah.
for the tree preservation.
At least for us to use, and then we, at the bottom of the
Both, I mean,
email, it
whatever
says,
we
feel
have.
free to
I
share
don't have
this
anything
with
about the
anyone
landmark
you
tree.
know. Whether they live in
I'll take
Clemson
care
or
of that.
not.
I'll make that email.
Yeah, so create an email, a draft from our committee, and this is what we are requesting these people, and then we all can send it to whatever email list or mailing list we have.
And I mean, we're asking people in Clemson to do this, but if you put at the bottom, share this email with anyone, anywhere.
That's right, anywhere.
It's fine if they do
Yeah.
it in Central and in South Dakota. I mean, right? I mean, if the results of this is more people do it, good.
Yeah, I was gonna say, the goal really is to get people to make their yards more wildlife friendly. So by all means, you don't have to be in Clemson, just do it up.
Anyway, yeah, so that's why I'm asking for a generic email and from this, especially going out from this committee.
Well, I'll send a draft out and you guys can help me.
Yeah.
And to
We
kick
can-
it up a notch, do it as a social media post and/or an
Yeah,
email.
social media, that's what I'm saying, we have.
And I'll
couple
put it
first-
on our next door site and our
Yeah.
Facebook.
Yeah,
pages.
yeah, I'll put it on next door
The
too.
city is currently revamping our website, and
We can put it
our
on.
department has our own page. And
And we
I'd
have our
love to have the
Facebook,
sustainability
for our
committee
neighborhood,
stuff
Calhoun
on that
Forest.
page.
Yeah, so I can put that,
Yep.
That'd be great, yeah. A section
Yes,
for each one, that'd be.
yes.
I looked today, it's still not listed,
Yeah,
it's still not listed as a city committee.
we'll get there.
We're making progress, you
making
guys. We're
progress.
really doing great.
Yep.
That's awesome. I'm
That's great. Well,
excited.
thank you. I mean, obviously everybody's going on with the team, and 2025 is going to bring quite a few changes, I think, for us.
This is gonna be a big year.
Yes, big year. We are all working, and we'll be working harder, and we'll be learning to, like I just said, we learned that changing ordinance is not an easy thing. We have, that's one takeaway is just that it's very hard to do. Okay.
Yeah.
That's my takeaway. But then we have to go around and look around, and we can work around things. But one takeaway is today that it's very hard to do. All right. Well, thank you so much for all the committees for your report, and I know you guys have been working, and as I said that we are moving, we are going. Now, next thing is open discussion on new business.
No,
Stafford.
I'm sorry. Oh, no, sorry. No. A staff report from Tony. I'm sorry.
Let Tony have his.
Tony, I was going to let go.
Skip him right up.
Okay.
Skipping. No. The staff report from Tony. Yes.
What's up, Andrew?
I said let Tony have his thunder.
Yes. Sorry.
Well, you have a copy of this. I'm not going to read it to you, but I would like to highlight a few things. I already mentioned that Kathy Robinson with that great bed there.
She's so great.
She is awesome. But we are looking at different opportunities to bolster our pollinator gardens around town, what we can do on public property. We have a great one at Sedgefield, that entrance to that neighborhood on Berkeley Drive. That is a couple of retired extension agents, Meg Williamson did that, and they've done a great job with it. It's on its third season, and it's thriving. But we would like to replicate that when we start to develop Berkeley Orchard. We would like to have a couple of large intentional meadows there, and sort of an orchard where we don't have to spray the trees. So looking at things like pecan trees, fig trees, blueberry bushes, and have a scaled down version of a community garden where it's fenced in with raised beds because it is near a floodplain. But just using that space as a demonstration for future landscaping, moving away from the turf and mulch and shrub bed that is mostly non-native. And this will be a great demonstration for what future landscapes look like. A lot of times of the year they get floppy and they don't look all that great, but they are doing a job. So taking that as a demonstration and letting the public see what that looks like, I think will be a pretty good project. The other thing is I wanted to brag about my crew. They're doing a lot of training this year. A couple of them are acquiring their South Carolina Landscape Professional Certification, and that is through the Extension Service. There's 9 modules. Both the guys that are going through it right now, they're a month ahead of schedule. They've completed all of the 9 modules, and they are studying for their exam for that certification, which is really good. And we have one guy who is going for his CDL license, which will allow us to get one of the big knuckle boom trucks from Public Works, and we'll be able to have one of those knuckle boom trucks to assist us with mulching and with picking up our own limbs and all of that stuff, which will be really, really beneficial to us. We are really behind on our mulching right now. So we have plenty of mulch from Helene. We just need to get it on the ground somehow. The other thing I wanted to point out that we had 1,088 trees that were added to the public tree inventory this year. That is huge, and that is almost 100% volunteer and students.
Awesome.
We had an intern this year who inventoried a ton of trees in our parks and green spaces. We had trees in the built environment from the university, which is Robert Polomsky's class, came out and did a project in Patrick Square. And then we had another intern who was a forestry student who inventoried most of the street trees in Patrick Square, which is important because now those trees, since it went from the developer to the homeowner, those trees are our responsibility. So we needed to understand what we had there. You can't manage something if you don't know, if you don't inventory it. It's like a grocery store.
So are those trees on the right of way?
It's only the trees that are in between the sidewalk and the curb. Those are considered the street trees. So there's quite a few issues in there. So they do have an arborist that they've hired, so we're working with that arborist on trying to correct some of the issues. The other thing is the crew collected 2,032 pounds of litter this year off of green spaces and right-of-ways and parks. That's actually down from 2,300 pounds last year, and that was down from 2,800 pounds the year before. So I don't know if we're seeing a trend that maybe publicizing this is making a difference, or the fact that we are being very diligent on picking this trash up. People are less likely to throw trash if you keep it picked up. They don't want to be that first person.
That's right, yeah. I was going to say that when I see someplace, makes me, especially when I go to this, when you go walk on our boardwalk.
What was the amount for this
It's
year?
like, people have littered it all over. So where did you guys, like, what's the area you included in picking up the litter and trash?
Do you want to know?
What area did you pick up?
Area, this would be all of the public land. So this is all of the parks, the highway right-of-way, downtown streetscapes. It's 300 acres of land that we are managing.
And is this what your urban crew is?
Yes.
Describe that to me. That's volunteers?
No, this crew is the 7 individuals in our crew. So that's 7 guys,
They're full-time employee?
full-time employees who pick up that much litter this year. And whenever we pick it up, we fill a bag, we bring it back to the shop and weigh it, and we record how much we picked up. And we record where the areas are, which individual picked up what.
So they do it, like, it's their full-time job from?
It is part of the job.
8 to 5 every day?
It is,
Not just picking up litter.
no, and that's why we record the weight. It would be impossible to record the time because we're doing this while we're doing other things.
Oh, okay.
But it really complicates our job. But litter is an issue in this town. It's an issue in any town. I've seen it since I was a little kid. You guys have too, as long as you've lived here. There is a litter issue in South Carolina. We have an attitude about it that we just freely throw our garbage. And it is getting into our waterways, the plastics are getting into
Yeah,
our
they
bodies.
said that,
So,
that boardwalk area, people just litter, because all those restaurants are there, people come and sit and
yeah,
they do picnic lunch and they leave all that thing, bottles and.
that leads me to the next number is 423 volunteers participated in Friends of the Park program in 2024.
That's great.
And these are most of these are student organizations, Greek organizations who come and get their community service time. And a lot of times I send them to Abernathy Park to pick up the shoreline in the wintertime. And Green Crescent Trail, we had a pickup 2 years ago. They picked up 350 pounds of trash in 2 hours off of that shoreline. So to your point, it is along a fast food strip. It is in a cove. It catches a lot of garbage. And if you walk along that shoreline, you see a lot of little pellets of styrofoam.
Yeah.
And it's from Cookout and some of the other fast food restaurants that are still using styrofoam cups. That stuff never goes away.
Styrofoam's horrible.
That's another
Make
ordinance.
an ordinance against
Another
styrofoam?
ordinance.
One can have a fine as well. Yeah, right. I mean, these are all sustainability concepts, yeah.
Yeah, but then you're going into like a deeper regulations and things like fast food restaurants. They should not be using styrofoam. They should not be giving, so it's like.
Well, I mean, we have entire states that have forbidden plastic, single-use plastic,
Yeah,
styrofoam and all that, so, but,
Yeah.
The cleanest states that you visit, they have signs on the highway that have extreme fines
Yeah.
for littering.
Yeah.
And those are the cleanest states.
and that is not
Cleanest
South
states.
Carolina.
And grocery stores, you will never find anywhere they have plastic bags. It's forbidden.
That's right,
Plastic
whole
bag.
countries. Think about who you vote for.
So, yeah, you cannot use plastic bags here.
Guys, just a couple more things. I will move to the next page, which is goals for this coming year. Again, I won't read everything, but I did want to point out a couple of things. Invest costs and possibly apply for a matching grant to develop an urban forest master plan. And that's not just trees, that's the entire urban forest. That is, we've been talking about our habitat corridors. Just this summer, we had Helene. This has a disaster plan built into it. This would be a comprehensive plan for our entire ordinance, or our entire urban forest for all of the city. That would be private, commercial, and public property. I think that's a really big thing, a big goal for us to try to make that happen. This would be a matching grant, so I'm going to be appealing to the council to hopefully give us some money in the budget for that. I know that Charleston, Mount Pleasant did this last year, so I'm going to contact them and see what the cost is. But that would be a really big project.
That's awesome.
This would be an outside group that would come in.
I do know Clemson, and I think their sustainability committee is doing another long-term framework plan. So if we could work with them and maybe even get not funding, but labor from the university to develop ours alongside theirs so that we have some cohesion, I think that'd be really good.
Yeah, there needs to be cohesion. most definitely.
Well, and let's have the committee recommend this, not just Tony Tidwell. So when
Absolutely.
you're ready to give us some wording, bring it in and
Okay.
we'll all pass it.
Oh, absolutely, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So you can say Tony Tidwell and the Sustainability Committee.
Thanks, guys. The 12 Mile is a department. 12 Mile Park is a department unto itself. I didn't know if you guys knew that. It is its own department, it has its own budget. So from the beginning, we've sort of been taking care of 12 Mile, so we manage the budget basically. And so a couple of things we would like to do there this year is replace all of the park signs with bilingual signs. We have a large Hispanic contingent out there. Remodel the landing bathrooms. They've been there since the mid-'70s, and they're in dire need. We're going to add sand to the beach area. We do this every couple of years. Investigate and improve ADA parking, access, and inclusive amenities. We have 2 ADA parking places out there that actually go somewhere. One is to the bathroom, and the other is to a non-ADA compliant picnic table.
Oh.
So we've got a lot of work to do out there. You can't even get to the picnic shelters if you are in a wheelchair. So we need to work on that. And then inspect, investigate, removal, replacement of the playground structures out there. They have been there a long time. I talked to the ranger and asked him if he could give me a date on when those things were installed. They have a lifespan of like 20 years. So, but the last thing I wanted to say is that Troop 235 is planning on coming and installing a trail, a single track nature trail around the crown of 12 Mile.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, so starting at Shelter 2, there's a gravel trail, existing gravel trail that leads you to the existing picnic areas. And then at the end of that gravel trail, we'll continue that single track trail around the crown of the hill and bring it back out into the parking lot.
Fantastic.
And Vic Shelburne is still working with the scouts. I don't know if you know Vic, but take a walk in the woods with Vic sometime.
Take some time with you.
Yeah, but they're planning on doing some signs to identify species,
Awesome.
similar to what they did at Shanklin Sam's Green Space with
How
that.
long is the trail totally then?
I don't know how long it is. We just basically
I don't know, it's
walked
just
it out.
nosy.
It's an Eagle Scout project, but once we get it all planned out, we can get the GIS manager to map it out for us. But we always get questions, is there places to walk here? Is there a walking trail at this park? So that'll be a great addition.
that's awesome.
That's all I got, guys.
The membership fee for buying, for the entrance is
It's-
going to be $40.
It's $40 for residents, and that's basically, if you think about it, that's 8 times. You're
Yeah,
paying
if
for
you
8
have
times,
a
and then the
walking
rest
trail.
of the year is,
No, yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, that if it has more things to do inside,
Yes.
just having a picnic area, if you have a walking trail, then it makes, definitely.
yeah, we've looked at things like having a third party come out and rent kayaks or paddle boards and things like that. So we're looking at ways to develop that park and make it more city resident, not friendly, but have more amenities than the 2 traditional beach and boat landing.
Yeah.
All of these will be presented to City Council at our retreat next week. And I'll be asking for a couple of capital things this year as well.
What is it?
I would love to move because I live
The
across.
comprehensive plan, how does this move into that? Does it move into that, or
Buy the membership.
where would we fit?
In the natural resources component.
Yeah.
So once that comprehensive plan starts, they start getting into sessions. I think you can volunteer if they do it the same way they've done it the past several years. They have different little committees, and there will be one for natural resources. I think that would be kind of where we would fit. And I don't have a timeline. That's another question for Nathan.
We've had some general information sessions, I think starting in the summer. so I don't know exactly what, I think they're moving to a different phase, or maybe they've already started.
It's not gonna get by us. We will have some involvement for sure, and, it'd be nice to volunteer for, one of the committees.
Is that something we can do?
As a resident, yes.
That's awesome.
That's it? Well, thank you. It was very informative to know what's going on and with this park, what you have planned and what you're working on in the city, what we're going to get. It's very exciting. Looking forward to that, yes.
When is this retreat?
Next Friday. So the first, it's basically we'll be hearing the council's ideas. We have 3 new council members, so we'll be hearing what their vision is, and then each department head will go through and talk about their goals and accomplishments. And
Is this
then,
open to public or
no, this is just
council
council and department heads initially.
brainstorming session? All right, thank you so much for all the committees for your report, Anthony. Let's move on to our now open discussion on new business. Do you have anything?
I do.
Okay, I have one, not kind of new, but it's something, suggestion I have. I sent actually our mayor, he sent me, just like any information regarding Greenville Sustainability Committee, their goals and their, all the details about them. And I looked at it and it was kind of interesting. So I thought that it would be a nice idea for all of us to just go over it and look at it and see if we can get some ideas and, so it's really,
Awesome.
yeah.
Can you email it out
That's
to
why
us?
he sent us a PDF file, so I'll send it to you guys. And then we can, if we think, we can, next meeting or whenever, we can go through look at it on the screen and, with all of us together looking at it and
So,
think about
so
it.
this Greenville report, the Shy Institute did that. Maybe we should think about inviting somebody there to come and talk to us. That sustainability, community what is it? Shy Institute for Community Sustainability?
Shy, yeah.
SHY?
SHI. Yeah, I have some contacts there.
Well, isn't Angela Halfacre still? Angela Halfacre works there.
And Joy Baker would be also
Yeah.
good.
So I send it to,
Oh, wow.
I have this PDF file. I'll send it to all of you, this PDF file, so you can just go over it and then
great.
next meeting, and we can just look at it. And I'm sure, Robert definitely thought that, it's useful, which we can use, so he sent it to me. So definitely I would like to look at it. What else you had? You had something else, Eunice, about?
So I wanted to tell you, I have this from Chad Carson. So he's the one that talked to us about the Green Crescent Trail. The City of Clemson and Clemson University are starting the federally funded Safe Streets for All study soon. And the next step could be federal funding to fix projects like sidewalks, multi-use paths, improved crosswalks. Anyway, they're forming a committee and they're asking for community members and stakeholders, especially of disadvantaged communities and or people of color. So if you know anyone like that, you can contact Chad or you can let me know so that we have a nice group of people that'll look at it. It's called Safe Streets for All, and it's a study. So I'll just let you know.
Has to be from this, from Clemson area, from this community, or?
They have to live in Clemson, and I can send you the link. It's a federal government thing. Transportation.gov is the link, and I'm sure you could just look up Safe Streets for All. You don't have to, but if you So think if you know somebody who's disadvantaged. I volunteered somebody who's willing to do it, who's legally blind, so he can't drive. So like, that's ideal, right? He sees Clemson differently than I do, right? Or what about somebody who's never going to be able to afford a car? You know, they have a low-income job, so they only take the buses, right? They see crosswalks differently than I do, so if you know somebody like that. And then I would like, we don't have to do this promptly, but as a sustainability committee, I'd like us to suggest a change to meetings so that perhaps every other meeting of these could be on Zoom. I think that's more sustainable, or it should be allowed. It is currently not allowed by the city. So I'd like to discuss that and see what y'all think sometime, if we could put that on the agenda. And then Chad asked us to request from the committee that the city go ahead with the 2 projects he recommended. You remember when he was here? That would be the trail, the Green Crescent Trail from Nettles to Ashley Deering and on Berkeley Road. So I'd like to put that on the agenda at some point in the future if we want to request from the committee that they do that. Apparently the funding is already there, it's just a matter of they need to do it in 2025.
What is the design process for that? Do they already have something planned out, or does the city need?
It is designed, apparently the money is there, they know where it's going, it just needs to be done.
Oh, that's awesome.
And so I want us as a group to say, do it.
Yeah,
Did you say Ashley Deering to Nettles?
Yeah.
yeah.
So
I
it'll
mean,
go
that's a
through the
no-brainer.
orchard.
I don't know where it'll go,
Yeah.
but it is designed and planned.
That's a great point, Robert. Is that on the same stretch as the Berkeley Orchard is going to be?
It'll be on the Berkeley Orchard, yeah.
Yep.
And is the Green Crescent Trail already taking that into account?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. No, they're smart.
Yeah, well, maybe he can visit us again with that plan.
I really don't think so.
Okay.
I think we need a motion and a second and a discussion. It's 5 minutes till 8, so I'm asking to put that on the agenda, potentially next month.
I
So
guess what I'm saying is, when you have that discussion,
we could tell him.
have him to present that plan. When you go to council,
Right.
you will be informed and not just speaking in general terms by making a recommendation. That's my recommendation to you.
And when
Is
we
that you
make
familiarize yourself with what they're talking about building here. That's all.
Amen. So can we put that on the
Sure.
agenda for next month,
Yep.
Rita?
For a speaker?
No, to discuss this motion I'm talking about.
Okay, yes.
And then we could just ask Chad to come to the meeting if he wants to. And then
That way if we have questions.
Yeah, we have, yeah.
and then we get the motion and we make a decision and then we ask him if he wants to go to city council and so on. And then I'm sorry I have so many things, so.
So could you ask him to send us details before the next meeting?
So
we know
go
what
to
we're gonna discuss?
greencrescenttrail.com and look it up.
Okay.
It's all there. He gave us, so he was here last month. He gave us the map. He went over that specifically. And we said to him, what do you want us to do? And this is what he said last month he wanted us to do. So I would say go to your, rewatch the meeting, go to the website. I don't think we need anything else. I think we just need
Yeah,
to
I
say
think,
it.
I mean, he talked about it, you know, I've got the
Yeah.
notes and everything that he.
And you
I
have the
remember him
map,
saying
right?
that.
Yeah, I took it home and
Yeah.
it's all on there.
Yeah.
So we just got to
Need
do
to have a
it
motion and just
Yeah.
get it.
from
approved.
us. That's
From
my
us.
recommendation. And then,
All right.
and then the last thing I have, I would suggest some point in the future that we have a meeting and or a day or a half day when all these sustainability groups that are in Clemson get together, right?
Love that.
So
An event.
your group, the university, the Sustainability Committee for the University of South Carolina Botanical Gardens, I think is going to do some kind of a sustainability fair. Perhaps you could ask about
Yeah,
that.
I'll ask about that.
They do that once a year. I think that we need a sustainability fair for the public and all the committees that are, I mean, why are we working here and they're working here, right? So I think this is not for next month, but I think it might mean we need a list of so-and-so's in charge of this is their contact number, you know, this is what they're doing. And we have that, and then maybe once a year, all those committees get together and and say, report, do you see what I'm saying? Report to each
It would
other.
help networking a lot.
Yeah, and then, like, for example, we can all work together on wildlife habitats, right? Everybody's doing
So
it.
it happens very often with the Clemson University. I know about, like, there are so many projects, when I'm working with them, there's so many things. Everybody is doing similar thing, and we don't even know about that committee.
Yeah.
We don't even know about that group. The same thing is happening here too, probably. So that's what I always say, that we should know what's happening, and we should all work together, obviously, and they don't know about each other either.
Maybe a force multiplier.
Yeah, so, and as I said, that
So
at the
the
very beginning. we
First step is the name of the organization, the contact name, the contact
Yeah.
information. And then the next step would be for us in one of our meetings to discuss a suggestion. Like, let's suggest to them, we're gonna all meet in whatever, let's say it's October, at this and this a time.
So-
Could you come? This is what we'd like you to report. You know what I'm saying? Let's have a meeting where we
So
discuss.
let me put it in words, and let me see how we are going to see it as an event which we want to organize. Is that what you're thinking?
Well, I'm saying perhaps at our next meeting or in March, we discuss this and decide what the next step is.
Okay.
And between now and then, we could work on the
Yeah,
contact
let's
list.
do it in March meeting. What we should do, that we should look for all the different committees where.
Before that.
Before that, yes. And all you guys look for it, like as you said, that what Clemson University is doing, and of course, how we know what we are doing.
And I'll check out the botanical garden.
Yeah, and botanical garden, and probably Andrew is going to figure out what are the other things they're doing on campus around with the sustainability committee, and
Mums would love that.
and how much trick is that, how much cooperation
Right.
and how much input we are going to get from them. That's
Well,
the whole
You
thing.
don't know until you ask.
It's after
Okay,
8 now, so I'm not saying discuss that now. I'm saying, could we discuss?
Yeah, we'll
what
discuss it next meeting,
we
so-
want,
That's
and then
that's
figure
part of
out
it.
where we want to go from
Yes,
there.
yes. I mean, that's a very good idea. We should definitely do our homework on that. And if you work together, as I said, that more heads are, I mean, not always, but few extra heads are better than few heads here. So sometimes too many heads, spoils the thing
Well,
also.
and at least for me, it's a little bit more important. I think it's fabulous to look at what Greenville's doing, but what about Clemson University?
That's right, yes. So we will look into those things, and definitely we are going
Let's
to have
look at what they're
brainstorming. And you guys can send email anyway, if you come up with anything. And definitely I would like to work with Botanical Garden and Clemson
Yeah.
University.
Yeah.
Definitely, they have more resources, they have everything.
Staff.
To staff, people, students who are volunteers, everything they have. So we should find a common ground to work on some certain
I'm pretty
things.
sure you
All right.
were exchanging
Well-
emails, they were having a fair, right?
Yeah.
I forget when.
And we should have an event where we all can go and look into the, kind of taking inventory of the places and things which we are doing. I think that will be.
Conscientious presence.
Yeah, so we should do that sometime in spring, so we have to decide that date.
Doing it in time for spring planting, a huge coordinated
Something,
spring
and
planting
publicize a
would-
great event, it's like, give lots of publicity, so everybody is like, it's
So
like.
next meeting, we meet about it, we come up with a time, a place, and a date. And
Yeah.
each member brings 1 or 2 groups that they would like to have a speaker.
And I think for today, the minutes need to include a section that says agenda for next month should include, right? So that,
Yeah.
because we just
So
said
that
we're
could- that
gonna
could be-
talk
that
about
could
this Green
be.
Crescent Trail motion, and we're
Yeah.
gonna talk about this combined meeting, and
Okay.
we're gonna talk about the tree ordinance, right? These are all, so future agenda items, so instead of just new business, it's actually fleshed out, because I'll forget.
I've got them here, and I can include them.
Yep.
And we'll just
Oh,
continue
you
to
feel
have
from
the
here?
Yeah, it's on the
reports
floor.
from the
Okay,
subcommittees.
it's my husband.
Oh, absolutely, always.
Where did this come
Maybe
from?
let's have our subcommittees come in with a bulleted list next time, because I know I rambled a little bit, so.
I agree. And ideally, you've emailed it to everybody ahead of time. That's really ideal.
Well, thank you so much, everybody. It's past 8, so I adjourn this meeting.
Motion to adjourn?
Second, third.
Okay, another last question. What's the temperature right